kind of dueling narratives. On one hand, we have earnings that are coming in largely better than expected. Apple leading the charge. We've got General Electric shares surging to the highest since October 2018. Boeing also shockingly showing strength after what otherwise would seem like a negative report, but again, they're a duopoly, so what does it matter? But I've got to say, we've got that, and then paired with this idea that the economy in the U.S., we've gotten some actually weaker than expected economic data, and we have the potential threat of the coronavirus to sort of help us parse through these sort of dueling factors in markets today. We've got Dave Wilson, Bloomberg Stocks editor and columnist, joining us here in our interactive Bloomberg studios, and also Carl Cadana, chief U.S. economist for Bloomberg Economics. Dave, can you just sort of kick it off with the stocks, the sort of earnings that we're seeing that are giving a little bit of a boost to what otherwise might have been a much more negative day, because I should just say that stocks at NASDAQ and the SP just turned down slightly.
Well, you've already touched on, a number of them. We say Apple and Boeing and McDonald's and General Electric. Now, on the other hand, what really jumps out is you got a couple of chip makers taking hits today. Advanced Micro Devices down 8% in the wake of their results. I mean, this has been a closely watched stock, only because of the magnitude of its gains. It was up 148% last year, up another 10% on top of that this year. And it's basically given back most of its 2020 advance in response, really, to its forecast for first quarter profit, which came up short of analyst estimates, at least the ones we surveyed here at Bloomberg. And so there's been this whole narrative about how the chip industry is supposedly on, the rebound here, and so you get some disappointing results or disappointing estimates, and, it kind of raises questions about that possibility. And then you have Xilinx, another chip maker, down 9.5%. Their earnings forecast also coming up short of estimates, and they're also getting rid of 7% of their workforce. So, again, it runs sort of counter to the idea that, with the chip makers, it's all about, what's the bigger picture look like for electronics. And so when you see these sort of concerns, you have to wonder what happens to a whole lot of industries going forward. And so that's sort of working its way into the mix today as well.
So Carl Cadana, chief U.S. economist for Bloomberg Economics. It is a Fed day today. 2 o'clock we'll get the release. Is this going to be a snooze fest today, or are we going to get anything?
Well, I think the 2 o'clock release will largely be a snooze fest as we look at the statement and the things that look outdated that need to be updated. Really, they could get away with maybe changing one single word in this statement, and that's just the characterization of consumer spending as being strong, as they highlighted in December. Since then, we've seen evidence that consumers are still holding up. Absolutely, strong is probably not the right word to describe the pace of activity, and we'll see that reflected more tomorrow when we get GDP growth, the first print of Q4, and see that it probably is below 2%.
I'm struggling, though, right now with... I'm trying to sort of get these sort of pieces and put them together and get a cohesive narrative right now. Because if you look at earnings, for the most part, they've been pretty good. And there was a great report by UBS talking about how actually the indication is that momentum is actually gaining when you look at corporate earnings. But then we get this data that just came out, pending U.S. home sales, weaker than expected, substantially. They're down. They were expected to be up. We're seeing these misses, and we're seeing the expectation that the Fed's going to cut rates. Are we